Joining me is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz, as you know, a friend of this show. Ami, great to see you again. But listen, what is Kamala Harris really up to in attacking a school course in Florida of all the states?
Yeah, this is really despicable stuff. Terrible, horrific stuff. Playing the race card in the name of politics. Essentially what's happening is there's a 216-page curriculum that is being written about black history. Now, they've had black history being taught in Florida schools for decades, but they're rewriting it because they're trying to get rid of racial essentialism, right? The Democratic crowd is saying that trying to be against racial essentialism is racist, when in reality, if you're pushing racial essentialism, if you're pushing the idea that race is all important, to me, that's the most racist thing. But they end up hanging their hat on this 216-page curriculum on black history, which goes through the horrible terrors that black people have gone through in America in detail, obviously including slavery. They hold their hat on one small little part of it, which said that during slavery, black people were able to acquire skills because they were forced to do labor. And they were able to use those skills because of black resiliency later in life to help them economically. I'm not exactly, somebody has to explain to me how that's racism. If anything, it shows the resiliency of black people to be able to make the best of a horrific situation. Yet Kamala Harris, the Democratic crowd, has been pushing this as an example of how racist Florida and by extension, Ron DeSantis is.
So that is really the key. It's really about Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor there, who's one of the candidates to be the Republican nominee for the presidential election against Joe Biden. So they've gone for him. Now, you've had a look at this course. It says slavery is bad, slavery is terrible, this happened, that was shocking, shocking, shocking. But as you just said, one thing is that African-American slaves did learn some skills that helped them elsewhere. Not that it excuses anything, it just noted as a matter of fact. It is fact, is it not?
It is absolutely fact, and that fact does not take away or diminish one iota the horrors of slavery. That's the point.
Now, it's ironic that the people who designed the course include African Americans who have now called out Harris for her misrepresentation of their course. Here is one of them.
It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
So, Ami Horowitz, the vice president misrepresented a course, in my opinion, clearly deliberately, made it seem like racism is using race politics as a political weapon. This strikes me as poisonous, dangerous, inflammatory, reckless. But how is her attack being covered in the media?
No, of course, the media coverage of this is taking the side of the Democrats and Kamala Harris. They're taking no part in trying to understand or research what the actual situation is. They mentioned the fact that the majority of the commission that made up this report were black. No, there's no mention of that. No, they're completely taking the side of Kamala Harris and Democrats. It's despicable.
It's just so shocking, Ami. I just wonder what's going on in America, where race is used so deliberately as a weapon, and it just tears the country apart. Ami Horowitz, President Joe Biden's son Hunter is going to get into a whole lot more trouble, maybe even as early as tonight, when one of his former business partners gives evidence. What's going on with him?
Yeah, so he had they finally came across with a plea agreement with the IRS. And by the way, I know Joe Biden's been saying for years that the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes, and I've been pushing back against that idea. After looking at Hunter Biden, I might agree with Joe Biden on that one for the first time. Look, $17 million, right, was what the IRS Special Agent Joseph Siegler, the self-proclaimed gay Democrat who was testifying, said was collected by Hunter Biden, right? And you then have to ask, well, did that money flow down to Joe Biden? Now, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points to that. But we also now have more direct evidence that shows that that money, in fact, flowed down to Joe Biden. First of all, Joe Biden was a lifelong civil servant, yet after he left the vice presidency, before he got into private practice and started making money on speeches, the man bought a multi-million-dollar vacation home, and his primary home, he spent $20,000 a month. Where'd that money come from? Well, now we're getting a better idea of where it's coming from. And tomorrow, they're really going to be in trouble because Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's partner for many years on the Ukrainian side of the business, is now going to spill the beans. A lot of stuff, we're just confirming things we already know. I think the real focus of where the corruption comes from is on the Ukrainian side, the Chinese side as well. But the Ukrainian side is really despicable because this is where he was still vice president, right? This is the whole connection with Burisma, where Burisma, this energy company, hired Hunter Biden at $83,000 a month to be on their board. And we had absolutely no experience in energy other than maybe the energy on how to acquire hookers and blow. But aside from that, no experience whatsoever. But what they did do is that his name was Hunter Biden. And Burisma was trying to get rid of Shokin, who was the Ukrainian prosecutor who was going after Burisma for corruption charges. Lo and behold, Joe Biden took over the Ukrainian portfolio for the Obama administration, and what was one of his first orders of business was he went after Shokin and threatened the Ukrainians that they wouldn't get $1 billion in aid unless they fired Shokin. How convenient for Hunter Biden and of how convenient for his company, Burisma. This is the situation that we see. And by the way, we have there are texts with Hunter Biden telling his daughter, hey, at least I won't make you pay like Pop made me pay half my salary to him. There is tons of evidence of the money flowing from Hunter Biden down to Joe Biden. And I think this is where he's going to get in a lot of trouble. And this is where the impeachment is going to go.
And Devon Archer, the business partner, is going to say, well, look, Hunter Biden was talking to his boss at Burisma with his father on the phone, and I was there at the time. So we shall see where all that goes. Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for your time.
That was a pleasure.